I'll never forget that night. I must have been around 8 years old, and fear froze every inch of my body. I was alone in my grandmother's backyard when something appeared right in front of me. A tall, dark figure, not quite human. Its shape was hazy, almost liquid, and it moved slowly toward where I was standing. The air grew thick, heavy, and an icy chill wrapped around me. Even though the night was warm, I couldn't scream or run. My feet felt glued to the ground. The shadow seemed to be watching me, studying every movement, every breath, and all I could do was stand there, waiting for it to disappear. That's how it all began. I grew up in a small town in Guanajuato, surrounded by mountains and endless cornfields. My grandmother's house was old, built of adobe and wood, with a wide yard where my cousins and I used to play all the time. That night, my parents had gone out to dinner and left me with my grandma in the living room. The full moon cast a pale glow over the patio, lighting the trees that loomed around the house. I was playing with an old doll that had once belonged to my mother, moving it from one side to the other, lost in stories only a child could imagine. Then I heard it, a strange sound, like footsteps approaching, but no one was there. I peeked out the window into the yard, but saw nothing. I figured it was my cousins trying to scare me, so I stepped outside carefully. That's when the real fear hit me. The shadow appeared out of nowhere. I can't even describe it properly. It wasn't human, but it wasn't an animal either. Its edges were blurry, dark, and it filled the entire space around me. I was frozen, watching it glide forward without making a sound, as if it were floating. Every time I tried to move, an invisible pressure pinned me in place. I tried to call for my grandmother, but my voice just vanished in the air. The shadow stopped a few steps away, and that's when I felt it, a piercing cold that ran straight through me. My chest tightened, and tears welled up from pure terror. For what felt like forever, we stood there, face to face. Deep down, I knew this wasn't a dream or a trick of my mind. It was real. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone, like someone had flipped a switch. The silence that followed was absolute, and the cold lingered long after. I ran to the living room and buried myself in my grandmother's arms. She held me tight, asking what had happened. I tried to explain, but the words wouldn't come out. I could only cry, trembling, my heart pounding out of control. Later, I learned that the house had been built on old land, a place said to be haunted by the spirits of people who'd lived there long ago. No one ever saw anything quite like what I described, but my cousins and neighbors often spoke of strange lights, moving shadows, and whispers carried by the wind. Ever since that night, whenever I visit my grandmother's house, I can still feel something watching me from the corners of the yard, even when I'm completely alone. Sometimes I see it again in my dreams, that same shadow drifting closer, silent and slow, and I wake up with the same pressure in my chest. I know it wasn't just my imagination. I know what I saw was real. I never told anyone at school, not even my friends. My parents thought it was just childish fear. Only my grandmother seemed to understand, though she never talked about it again. As I grew older, I learned to accept that some things can't be explained, and that certain experiences stay with you forever, even if no one else believes them. Even now, whenever I'm alone at night, I sometimes get a chill down my spine, and for a brief moment, I can almost feel someone standing right behind me. I don't know who or what it is, but I know that shadow has never truly left me. That night, I was walking alone down a narrow alley near the lake when something made me stop cold. A whisper, soft, barely audible, drifted through the air, moving as I moved. Fear wrapped around me instantly. There was no one nearby, yet the sound followed, floating just behind me. I tried to ignore it, but the feeling that something was watching me froze me in place. It had all started a few hours earlier. I'd been in the town square, where the Halloween celebration was in full swing. Music, lights, costumes everywhere. Children were running around with lanterns, adults laughing and admiring the decorations. When the night grew late, I decided to take a quieter route home, the old cobblestone street that led toward the lake. The rain had stopped, leaving the pavement slick, and the street lamps cast weak, flickering light across the walls. Each step echoed, and with every echo came the uneasy sense that someone was walking behind me. That's when the whisper began. It wasn't in any language I knew, just a murmur, distant yet close, and somehow it said my name. I froze, trying to find where it came from. Then I saw it, a shadow slipping along the walls of the alley. It wasn't human, and it wasn't an animal either. Its shape was shifting, dark, almost weightless, and with it came a wave of icy air that cut right through me. I stepped forward cautiously. Each move felt heavy, as if the ground itself were holding me back. The shadow glided toward me in complete silence, but with every inch it drew closer. The air grew tighter, harder to breathe. I tried to shout, to call out. Nothing came out. I could only stand there frozen, as fear seeped into every corner of my body. Then the figure revealed itself completely. Tall, undefined, blurred at the edges. It hovered just above the ground, moving in slow, deliberate motions. It made no sound, except that whisper, echoing now inside my mind. I tried to step back, but my feet wouldn't move. It felt like the alley itself was holding me there. The air turned glacial, though the night outside was warm. Every breath burned, as if the air carried something invisible that scorched my lungs. The shadow tilted its shape toward me, and I felt a crushing weight on my chest, like it was peering inside, reading every thought, every fear. I wanted to move, to run, but I couldn't. Its presence filled everything. And then it was gone. Just like that, the alley fell silent. The cold lingered for a few moments, and I was left standing there, trembling. I looked around, searching for any trace of what had happened, but the street was empty, peaceful. No one had seen a thing. No one had heard that whisper that followed me until it simply faded away. I walked slowly back toward the lights of the square, trying not to look behind me. Every shadow on the wall seemed to move, and every echo of my footsteps came with another sound, a faint second step, always just out of sync. When I finally reached the bright, crowded street, I felt a rush of relief, but deep down, that feeling of being watched never really left. Ever since that night, whenever I walked through an empty alley, the same cold presses against my skin, that same invisible weight. I know it wasn't a dream. I can still feel the presence that watched me, waiting somewhere beyond sight, silent, patient. I never walk alone at night anymore. And every Halloween, when the square fills with laughter and glowing lights, I still feel it, the whisper calling out again, unseen, soundless, waiting for the right moment to return. I never believed in anything supernatural. Not until that night in the Mexico City subway. What I saw changed everything I thought I knew. Even now, I can still feel its presence, even when I'm alone. That strange sound, half a sigh, half a shriek, still echoes in my head. I can still see him standing there, right in front of me, his suit filthy and torn, his mask looking like it was made of living flesh. Even his red nose wasn't plastic. It looked like real skin. It all started earlier that night. It was around 11:30 p.m., on October 31st. I'd been at a small Halloween gathering, music, costumes, a few drinks. When it ended, I decided to head home by subway, since my car was out of service. I knew the last train passed just before midnight, so I hurried toward Hidalgo station. The city felt unusually quiet, as if everyone had vanished all at once. When I reached the platform, it was almost empty. Just a couple in costumes and an old man dozing on a bench. The tunnel lights flickered now and then, and the air smelled damp, like rust and dust. I sat down to wait. The train took longer than usual to arrive. When I finally heard the screech of the wheels on the tracks, I felt a wave of relief. The doors opened, and I stepped into the nearest car. It was completely empty. I sat close to the door, watching my own reflection in the dark window. The glass seemed foggy, as if the tunnel's darkness was bleeding into it. The train passed a couple of stations, nothing out of the ordinary, until the next stop. Just before the doors closed, I heard footsteps, uneven, hurried, and then I saw him. A clown. His outfit was dirty, stained with something I couldn't identify. The red wig hung in wet, tangled clumps over his face. In one hand he held a black balloon, in the other a small wooden case. Something about him immediately felt wrong. He didn't move like a performer. His steps were too slow, too heavy, and his head turned just slightly, as if studying me. The train started moving again. He remained standing right in the middle of the car. For a moment, I thought maybe this was some kind of Halloween prank, a street performer trying to scare passengers. But there was no audience, no cameras, no laughter, just him and me. Then he made a sound. At first it was faint, like he was mumbling to himself. Then it changed, grew into a wet, high-pitched squeal that filled the entire car. It didn't sound human. The noise made my skin crawl. I turned toward the window to avoid looking at him. But that's when I saw it. Something moved under the mask, like something alive, struggling to break free from underneath. The train screeched to a stop at the next station, but the doors didn't open. The lights flickered. The car trembled. I looked down the aisle, hoping to see another passenger, but it was still just us. When I turned back toward him, he was gone. I spotted him crouched near the floor a few meters away, opening the small wooden case. Inside were balloons, but they weren't normal. They were pale, almost translucent, and something moved inside them, as if they were breathing. I couldn't move. My chest tightened. The air felt thick and heavy. The clown picked up one of the balloons and began to inflate it, but he wasn't blowing air into it. He was inhaling. Each breath he took made the balloon swell with a dry, rasping hiss, as if he was drawing something invisible out of the air, or maybe out of me. The sound came again, louder this time, closer. I jumped to my feet and ran toward the other end of the car. I slammed on the doors, pressed the emergency button. Nothing worked. The train kept moving. When I turned back, he was standing right behind me. I could smell him, a mix of old makeup, rust, and something I can't even describe. His mask was fixed in that same painted grin, but his eyes were completely black. I don't remember how I escaped. Suddenly, the doors opened, and I fell onto the platform. When I looked back, the train was already gone, swallowed by the tunnel. People nearby stared at me like I'd lost my mind. I tried to explain what happened, but no one believed me. They said the trains had stopped running 20 minutes earlier. I walked home without looking back. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I searched online, news, forums, anything, and found only one old thread. It mentioned the subway clown, an apparition that shows up every Halloween, right before the last train. According to the story, anyone who rides alone with him never comes back. At first, I thought it was just coincidence. But every October since that night, I hear that sound again, that wet, distorted whisper. echoing in my dreams, and sometimes, even when I'm walking alone.